Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over this tip calculator, and I actually think I'm going to walk away from that right now. So let's stop the run. Let's do a file, close project, and I think we're going to start a new project in here. Okay, I'm just going to call this, for lack of better words, Chapter 5. Alright, I'm going to use all of the defaults, so next, finish. Alright, I can turn off the emulator for right now. Alright, this chapter starts on pages 120 and 121 with a summary of the different layouts that are available to you. Okay, we've worked a little bit with the relative layout, which lays out widgets relative to one another. A linear layout I've shown you. We have not gone over a table layout, which is going to be discussed in this chapter, which lays out widgets in a table. We've not gone over a frame layout, all right, where widgets, you can stack widgets on top of one another. The book does not go through the grid layout, and it does not go through the absolute layout. Now, the grid layout was introduced in Android 4.0, which was API 14, but again, it's not covered in the book. And the absolute layout was deprecated in level 3, so it's not covered. The chapter is also going to go through some of the widgets that you'd most often use. Now, some of these we've already talked about. The text view, we've used it. The edit text, we've used it. The button, we've used it. All right. In here, they'll also talk about the checkbox, the radio button, the spinner, the progress bar, the seek bar I showed you earlier back in my copy of the BMI program. There's a rating bar, an image view, an image button, a date picker, a time picker, a calendar view, a scroll view, and a web view. Some of these go by different names in different other languages. What I really should do here, I'm not doing it, but I should do it, and that is to go back to here, there. First, let's right mouse click and pin it to the start menu, I think. Easier for me. And I'm going to go through here and I'm going to find Chapter 5. Of course, it's not there. File, open, computer, desktop. I reorganized my desktop, which was my own fault, but I think it could be here. Instructors, slides, Chapter 5, is that it? All right, so those are the different layouts. Here's some of the other widgets that you can use, but what I wanted to show you was this picture right here. All right, so this is what they call the view hierarchy. You'll notice that everything is underneath view. That's why typically when you're going to do an app that has widgets on it, and virtually all apps have widgets on it, one of the things that you want to import is android.view with a little v dot view with a big V, and that imports this, which is going to allow you to use the stuff underneath it. So the view class is the superclass for all widgets. The view group that you see up above that is the superclass for most widgets that can contain other widgets. For instance, frame layout, linear layout, relative layout. The text view class, all right, the text view class, which is in here, there it is, that is the superclass for the edit text and for the button. So it is all laid out in a different hierarchy. All right, so let's take a look at, in the book, I'm going to go through and show you what is shown in the book. So I'm going to come back, jump back into my program, which currently has virtually nothing in it. All right, and I'm going to go over to my activity main XML, go into text mode. All right, and we're going to make some changes in here. First thing I'm going to do is remove this Hello World widget that's in there. Then we're going to come in and we're going to change this so that it's a linear layout. Linear layout. All right, so that's the first thing. Then we're going to come in and add 2 buttons. Again, I'm following the code that's shown on page 125 of the book. All right. We will set the width to match parent, and we will set the height to wrap content. All right. Next, we're going to give it an ID. Calculate tip button. All right, and then we'll go into our strings file and we will add in here another string. Name equal calculate. All right, and our other one will say settings. Okay, so those are the 2 changes in our strings file. Then in here, we will add Android text equal add string calculate. Now they use calculate tip, it's no big thing. All right, so there's the first one. And then let's take all that, copy it, paste. So we're going to get the error because I've got to change this. So this will say settings button. All right, again, it will be match parent for the width, wrap content for the height, and this down here will say settings. Okay? All right. Let's do a file, save all, and let's run the program. And I guess I used the tablet for my emulator, which is fine. But this is just meant to show you a linear layout. All right, that was the sole purpose behind this particular example. So there's calculate. And I'm trying to figure out why it wouldn't be showing the settings, but it's not. I'm going to stop this run before we run it again. Let's take a look at what we have. Button, Android. Again, let's make it, we're just going to copy everything they have in the book. So I'm going to change this around a little bit. All right. ID is calculate. Tip button is what they called it. That's fine. The layout width is match parent. The layout height is wrap content. The text is string calculate. Okay. Then we've got another button right underneath that. And again, the ID now is settings button. The width is match parent, the height is wrap content, and the text is settings. Okay, that should all be okay. Then the linear layout. Now, when we look up here, we'll keep this, but for linear layout, we need the XML NS that I don't think we need these. And I don't think we need this. But we will need to put an ending one here. All right, so we've got our XML namespace thing, which is fine here. Linear layout, XML namespace, Android, equal schemas, Android, etc., etc. That looks good. The width is match parent. The height is match parent. And they hit, for whatever reason, they have you set up an orientation. All right, which seems to have gotten rid of all the errors that we had in there. Okay, so let's again do a file, save all, and let's again run our app, and we'll change it back to the Nexus 1. See what that gives us. So a linear layout is designed to display a column or a row of widgets. We should have two buttons here that stretch all the way across. First one saying calculate, the second one that says settings. There we go. That's what we should have. It's the same thing that is shown on page 125. So if you need to create a user interface that displays things in a vertical or horizontal line, you might want to use the linear layout. All right. By setting the orientation to vertical, the layout displayed the two buttons in a vertical line. In other words, one above the other. Okay. Now there's other things that you can do in here, and they show some examples on 126 and 127. So for instance, if we came in where we have this and changed it from vertical to horizontal, okay, into the file, save all, and we took a look on here. Now sometimes when you do this, it'll catch up right away, and sometimes it doesn't catch up. I've typically found that you're best off closing the emulator, all right, and running the project again. You may or may not agree with that. As with anything else, as you get more experience, you see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense to you. But the idea was, what we changed here was the orientation. So where previously you saw how the buttons were set up, let's see if it's changed now. All right, now you see only calculate. All right, and I believe the reason that you see calculate is, and that's all you see, is this was set up with the width to match the parent. So it was designed to be as wide as it could possibly be. I'm going to change this, and I'm going to say wrap content on both of these. And let's see, first of all, if that makes a difference. And you can see that it does. Now, you may not like that, and typically the width of the button is going to be dependent on the text that you put in there. These are almost identical to one another because they have about the same number of letters. But you may have noticed that in the program it wasn't bad because the buttons had a plus and a minus sign. But sometimes, like for BMI, the BMI program, I had one that said calculator, and I had one that said clear. So the calculate button was bigger. All right. But if I come in here and I do this, and this is oftentimes what you'll want to do, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say Android : weight equal 1. And I'm going to actually put that on both buttons. Oops. Try that again. another file, save all, and let's see what this does. By setting the weight, you're saying basically setting the weight on both of them to 1. What we're saying is we want both buttons to be the same width. All right. Don't like the fact that this has not come up yet, but it says build failed, which is never a good thing. So let's close this. Let's do a build clean project and a build rebuild project. Sometimes that cleans it up, sometimes it doesn't. So let's see. Still isn't coming up. Usually when that happens like that, what that means is somehow, some way, something in here got hosed. Okay? And took a quick look while this was coming up at the stuff I put in here. I didn't see anything that should have screwed this up. Now, the other thing to make you, just so you realize this, is I can remove this. Okay? Always a good first step. So let's do a save all. And let's run it again, because then if we know that if it comes up now, it was something in those lines that said Android weight equal 1. All right, so it is something that's in there. Now, what I have found in the past is sometimes it just happens. I don't understand why Android does that, but it does. So I'm going to go back into design mode, and there's my button. So I'm going to click on my first button, and I'm going to go to view all properties, and I'm going to find the weight button that's in here. And I know it's in here someplace. We'll find it. Layout weight, I believe that's it. I believe that's right. We're going to find out. I'm going to put a one there. Like that. I'm going to try to put a 1 there. Let's look. Let's bring this back up. Layout width, layout height. All right, there's a 1. Okay, you see how it got bigger? Now I'm going to go to settings, and I'm going to again put in a 1. And now it made the two buttons the same size. That's what I'm trying to show you. All right. Now, if we set it up like this, okay, and let's remove the layout one. on both of these. Well, okay. Gravity. I don't know why I should have so much trouble with it, but I am. Layout, wait, there it is. And I'm going to remove that 1 from it. See how it gets smaller? I'm going to do the same thing with this one. So I'm going to get rid of that too. All right, you can see how they shrank down. Nothing big there. All right. But what I'm going to do is for each button, I'm going to find the property that's called gravity. Layout gravity. I think that's what it is. It says an error occurred. And I want to set this to center. See what happened? All right. That put it at the center of the screen. Well, that's not really what I wanted. All right. So let's look at what we've got here. Well, there's a center vertical. No, don't want that either. There's a center horizontal. And the point is, there's different things that we can do with these. Okay, and that's what I'm trying to get across to you. I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to come back into the text. This is what they show in the text. Is Android gravity equals center. All right, they actually put that in, I believe, for both buttons. All right, now I believe if we go back and look at it, it doesn't look any different. But if we change this, because we had put the orientation here to horizontal, and I'm going to come back and switch it back to vertical. File, save all. Okay, I thought that was going to be in the center of the screen. That's what they showed in the book, but let's, just to be sure, let's try to run it and see. And it did not do it. Which does surprise me. All right. So we wanted to go here. And we wanted, so this is a vertical layout, it says, where the buttons are centered horizontally. So orientation vertical. Android gravity equals center. Well, I thought that would have worked. Pretty obvious it did not. They mention in the book, in the third example, the gravity attribute of both buttons has been set to center. As a result, both buttons are centered horizontally in the layout, which has been set to a vertical orientation. My orientation is vertical, and the gravity on each is set to center, but that did not work. I'm not sure why. All right. Next, they mention, because that didn't help too much, and I'm sorry about that, they mention a table layout with 2 rows and 4 columns. So let's come in here and let's change this from linear to table. Now hopefully changing that also changed it down here, and it did. All right. We've got our thing here. We don't need this tools thing. The layout width is match parent, the layout height is match parent, and we don't need an orientation. All right. So what we're going to attempt to do here is I'm going to remove all of this that we put in. All right. And we're going to first put in a table row. And there actually are going to be two table rows in here. Let me just put them both in right away. All right. In this first table row, we're going to put in a text view. Whoops. All right. And in that first text view, we want to come in again into our strings file. And let's put in a couple more of these. We might not even use these. But first one we're going to put in here after settings and calculate the settings. This one will say we'll call this bill amount label, and we'll put in here bill amount. All right, and then we'll have another one where we're actually going to have a bill amount in here. And we'll just set it, they set it to an arbitrary value of 100. All right, then after that, they've got a bill amount 100. Whoops, I goofed up here. I wanted bill amount label, and that was supposed to say bill amount. And then I want just the bill amount itself, and that was going to be equal to 100. All right, then I want the percent label, which was going to have percent here, and then we're going to have the percent amount, which we were going to set to 15%. And then finally, we're going to call this one increase. Put a plus sign there. And this one decrease. Put a minus sign there. That should be everything. All right, let's jump back into our activity main. And in here, there's the bill amount label. And I guess that's all they're putting in there. All right, and after that, we're going to put in an edit text. some reason they show it like that in the book, but I don't know why they would do that. But it does appear to like that. So, take start, alt close. I'm going to leave off the request focus for right now. More concerned with building this and see what it looks like. All right, so there's our first table row. And then our next one, I wonder, can we go over to design view and take a look? So we've got the bill amount. Okay, so that's a start. Then we want to come in here and we are going to have two text views. Followed by two buttons. All right. Okay. There's our label. And they mentioned if we wanted, we could put attributes in there. Well, one thing I should do is say Android ID, and I should set up the ID. Should always do this. I'm getting an error because I already have one by that name. So this will say tip percent label. That's fine. All right. And then we're going to do two more. Let's bring this in. All right, this will be just tip percent. Well, that's what I called it. Oh, we got it called tip percent amount, which is fine. All right, and this will be called just tip percent. Okay, then now let's see what we've done now. Okay, well, it says 100. You can see it's not wide enough, so we have to go and change that. Clicked on this, and we set the layout width to wrap content. I thought that would take it. It's not either one of them. It's not just going to want to stretch it either. So, height, layout width. Huh. I'll have to look at that one. You can see the other one's fixed. Let's put in those two buttons. That edit text, that column span should have covered that. Right. And it's not. Huh. Well, let's put in the two buttons anyway. Alright, so that's a table layout. Alright, there's a frame layout on pages 130 and 131, and what they show there is it allows you to display an image and then put some text in front of it. You can also nest layouts. You've actually seen this. I put linear layout in a linear layout for the BMI program, and that's 132 and 133. They've got a landscape layout that you can set on 134 and 135, and the author says, by now, you should know that an Android activity needs to handle screen orientation changes. One way to do that is to prevent the activity from changing orientation. We talked about that in an earlier chapter. Another way is to use the same layout for both portrait and landscape, which is kind of what we did for the tip calculator. But there's times that you want to provide one layout for portrait and another for orientation. To do that, you can create a directory named reslayout-land, and they show you this on page 135. So you provide a separate XML file for landscape orientation. All right, I think that's good for right here. Oh boy, we're way over. So when I come back, we're going to work with widgets for the rest of the chapter. I'll be back with that shortly.